Welcome to Time Traveling Team, the weekly podcast where we review every story of Doctor Who right from the very beginning. I'm Paddy.
And I'm Tricia. This week we join the Doctor and Co. as they find themselves drawn to the planet of fire. As usual, we'll be discussing the Doctor, companions, and the villains, and give your thoughts on the story as a whole.
I would also love to hear your thoughts on this story, as we always do. So in order to join in the discussion, you can check us out at Time Team, that's TIMETAMP, on Facebook, X, and Instagram, or you can email us at timetravelingteam@teamproductions.com. And we did get some feedback about our conversation about Tegan recently, and the conversation that we had surrounding the portrayal of women in distress in media and our interpretations of it. That was kind of cool as well.
So, who was that feedback from?
It was from Paul.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have more details about Paul's
No.
feedback?
It was just pretty much like that was it, and also like the wide variety of stories that we covered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Yes.
in that case, Paddy, will you lead us into another story, please, and thank you.
I will indeed. So, Part 1. On a windswept volcanic plain on the planet Saturn, two young men trudge wearily up the slope of a volcano. One of them, Roscal, says he cannot go any further, but his friend Amayand says that they are nearing their goal at the center of the volcano. However, when they reach the upper rim, they see that it is empty, and laugh, saying that the local legends of the god that lives there, Logar, are false. At that moment, in a nearby city, the chief elder, Timonov, is speaking to a young man named Malkon about the ethics of sacrificing dissenters and non-believers to the volcano in Logar's name. Timonov says that now more than ever they must give Lorgar sacrifices as the planet is dying. Malkon expresses doubt at this, asking why Lorgar would forsake his people, but nevertheless agrees to follow Timonov's advice. He then asks about an unusual birthmark on his skin. Timonov says that he is a chosen one of Lorgar, having been found on the volcano slopes as a baby, and that he will lead their people to prosperity. Meanwhile, on the TARDIS, the Doctor is mourning the departure of Tegan when he and Turlough hear screams from inside the TARDIS. They rush down the corridor and find Kamelion, their robot companion, on the floor, writhing in agony. The Doctor sends Turlough to the console room to amend the TARDIS's inner systems, as Kamelion is connected to them. After he settles down, Kamelion apologizes for his outburst, saying that he was confused for some reason. The Doctor goes back to the console room and finds Turlough sabotaging the console after having detected a distress call from a ship from his home planet. The Doctor asks why he did it, and Turlough lies, saying that he detected an emission that he thought might be interfering with the TARDIS and causing Kamelion to malfunction. The Doctor then notices that the coordinates have been changed, and Turlough says that Kamelion may have done it during his fit. On Earth, a young woman named Perry Brown meets up with her stepfather, Professor Howard Foster, who is on an archaeological expedition near Lanzarote. She tells him that she is bored waiting for him and his mother to finish their work and intends to go backpacking to Morocco with a pair of boys she just met. He forbids her from going, saying that she needs to go back to college. She says that she isn't a child and can take care of herself. Howard eventually relents and tells her that she can go. He tells her that they need to go to his boat so he can give her money, and when they arrive she looks around at the artifacts that he has found, including a strange metal tube with the same symbol that Malkon has on his arm. Howard then leaves Perry on the boat, revealing that he tricked her to prevent her from going to the airport. Perry calls out after him, berating him for his trick. Meanwhile, the TARDIS lands on the beach near Howard's camp as the Doctor attempts to track down the energy emission that was interfering with Kamelion. He and Turlough go for a look around and see Howard and his assistant packing up the latest batch of relics. The Doctor congratulates them on their find and offhandedly mentions that they may have found more than they bargained for. Howard and his assistant then leave, and the Doctor says he is picking up the signal, but he needs to triangulate its source. Turlough says he will go back to the TARDIS to do another scan and then report back to the Doctor. There he finds Kamelion at the console, who tells Turlough to stay back, saying that he's been instructed to find the point of contact. Turlough says that he won't let him and sends a feedback loop through the console, shutting down Kamelion. He activates the external scanner and sees Perry, having decided to swim back to shore, drowning. He rushes up to save her and brings her inside the TARDIS to recover. He takes her into one of the bedrooms but notices that she has the metal tube with the symbol on it. He demands to know where she found it, but she soon falls asleep. He then rolls up his sleeve to reveal a birthmark like the symbol. He goes back to the console room just as the Doctor arrives, having tracked down the signal to the metal tube. Turlough says that he found it on the beach, and the Doctor takes the beacon from inside it in order to find out why it brought him to Earth. Elsewhere in the TARDIS, Kamelion reactivates and takes on the appearance of Howard, having been roused by a distressful dream Perry was having. He goes to the console room just as the TARDIS mysteriously dematerializes and pretends to be the real Howard, saying that he followed Turlough inside after seeing him save Perry. Perry then arrives and asks where she is. Back on Sarn, Malcolm addresses a gathering of the local populace, telling them that Lorgar will soon send a sea of fire to test their fate. Some of the people say they should leave to save themselves, but Malcolm says that they should stay to show that their fate is strong. This leads to more protests, and Timanoff steps in, saying that they can endure Lorgar's trial, then he will grant them prosperity, when the prophesied outsider will come. Suddenly, Amiand and Roskal burst in and reveal their trip to the volcano, and declare that Lorgar doesn't exist. The crowd starts to turn on Timonov, and he asks Lorgar for a sign of his existence. Jets of flame shoot up from the ground in a nearby flame pit as it begins to shake violently, but the Amiand says it is just coincidence. Tensions rise again, but suddenly a lookout bursts in, saying that the outsider has arrived after having spotted the TARDIS appear. Inside the TARDIS, Perry watches as the Doctor and Turlough go out to investigate their surroundings, and she asks Howard, now realizing he is Kamelion, where they are and if he can go back to the camp. Suddenly, Kamelion closes the TARDIS doors and gloats at the TARDIS as his. He then transforms into the Master. Part 2. Perry demands to be let go, but Kamelion says that she must remain in the TARDIS. Perry tries to leave, but Kamelion forces her to the ground, but then suddenly recoils in pain. Perry then watches as he reverts to his normal form, and he begs her to help him. Perry asks what is going on, and where Howard is. Kamelion says that he is safe on Earth, and that he took his form due to Perry's strong emotional state. He gives her a piece of the console to take to the Doctor. He then screams in pain and tells her to go find the Doctor and warn him about the Master. He shifts back into Howard before finally reverting to the Master's appearance. Outside, the Doctor and Turlough find an altar with the symbol carved into the pillars around it. Turlough reveals its meaning to the Doctor and says that Sarn must be a Trion colony. As they wander away, they fail to notice the Master's TARDIS appear. The Master waits for them to leave and then summons Kamelion to free him from his TARDIS, and Kamelion forces Perry to go with him. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake and the Master's TARDIS falls on its side. Kamelion is knocked unconscious by falling in debris, and Perry uses the opportunity to escape. Kamelion then wakes up a short while later, and the Master orders him to materialize the Doctor's TARDIS inside his own. However, Kamelion reveals that he cannot do it due to the missing piece he earlier gave Perry. The Master orders him to find her immediately. In the temple, Malkon, against Timanoff's wishes, decrees that no one will be sacrificed now that the outsider has arrived. Timanoff then leaves Malkon away to investigate the TARDIS and berates him for allowing Amiand to go unpunished. He says the reason the planet is dying is because of heretics denying Lorgar's existence. Up in the hills, Perry searches for the Doctor and then spots them as they make their way up the slopes of the volcano. She calls out to him and Turlough, but to no avail, and is forced to flee when she spots Kamelion coming after her. He catches up to her at a lookout post. He demands that she give him the TARDIS component, but she threatens to show it over the cliff edge. Kamelion says that if she destroys it, that she can never get back to Earth. She pleads with Kamelion to fight off the Master's influence, and he assumes Howard's form again. The Master tries to reassert control, and Perry uses the opportunity to try and escape down the cliffside. Meanwhile, up on the volcanic slope, the Doctor and Turlough are apprehended by Amiand, who brings him to his base where other dissidents have gathered. Turlough asks why no rescue ship has arrived from Trion, and Amiand and his colleague Sarasta express confusion at this, saying that they have never heard of Trion. The Doctor intervenes and asks to know more about Lorgar, which he overheard them talking about as they entered the base. They tell him about Lorgar and the volcano, and he says that they need to leave immediately due to the volcano's instability. They say that they are safe in their tunnel hideouts, but the Doctor informs them that the tunnels are connected to the volcano, and lava will pour through them when it erupts. He then spots some machinery nearby and informs them that it is used to convert seismic energy from the volcano into power for the settlements. A dissident enters and says that Timanoff has gone in search of the outsider, and Amiand gloats over the fact that they have found him first, assuming the Doctor to be him. At that moment, Timanoff encounters Kamelion, who has resumed the Master's form, and greets him as the outsider. A short while later, Amiand brings his followers to the temple and shows the Doctor and Turlough to the rest of the population, saying they are proof of his claim that Lorgar doesn't exist. Malkon appears and demands to see some proof. The Doctor again says that the volcano will soon erupt and destroy them all, but offers to take them away in the TARDIS. Turlough interrupts them after having investigated some nearby electronic equipment. He says that they came from a Trion ship and demands to know where the crew is. The Doctor says that if Turlough can fix the equipment, then maybe he can send a distress signal back to Trion. Turlough grows agitated when he spots equipment carrying the same mark that is on his arm, and demands that Malkon show him to the rest of the equipment with the symbol. The Doctor asks what is going on, and Turlough says that the equipment came from his father's ship. In the corridor, Turlough asks Malcolm why he's called the Chosen One, and he shows him his birthmark and tells him that is where he was found. Turlough insists that Malcolm bring him to the volcano, showing him off his own birthmark, saying that it is the ceremonial brand of Tryon. Malcolm brings him to the area where he was found, and Turlough reveals that it is the remains of a crashed Tryon ship. Suddenly, Perry appears and informs about Kamelion and the Master's control over him. Turlough says they need to go find the Doctor, and he takes the exhausted Perry with him. Back in the temple, Timanoff arrives and orders the Doctor to be taken into custody by order of the Outsider. One of Amion's followers goes to intervene, but he is killed, and the Doctor watches as Kamelion enters, thinking that he is the real Master. Kamelion orders that Amion's followers be punished for disobeying the will of Lorgar, and he orders Timanoff to have them burnt. He says he will release them if the Doctor tells him where Perry is. The Doctor says that he doesn't know, and he watches helplessly as Amian and the others are pushed into the flame pit. Part 3. Turlough and the others arrive at the temple and watch as the Doctor is dragged towards the flame pit with the others. Turlough tells Malcolm to stop the burnings and inform the Doctor about Kamelion, whilst he takes Perry with him for another task. Malcolm orders the burnings to stop, and Kamelion demands to know who he is. The Doctor uses his ignorance of Malcolm's status as the Chosen One to prove that Kamelion isn't the Outsider. Timanoff overrules Malcolm, and one of his followers shoots him with a blaster. Kamelion orders the burnings to continue, but the flames suddenly die out, and Timanoff says it is a sign of Lorgar's displeasure. In reality, Turlough used the Tryon equipment to cut off the gas supply to the flames. The Doctor tends to Malcolm, who is not dead, but he tells Amina and the others to pretend that he is. Malcolm explains about Kamelion being under the control of the Master, and the Doctor confronts him. He then tries to insert control over Kamelion, and Timanoff and the others watch as he reverts to Howard's appearance. However, the process stops and at the halfway point, and Howard's skin glows bright silver, leading Timanoff to say that it is a sign from Lorgar. The Master uses his influence to have Kamelion order that the Doctor be taken away to stop his influence on him. At that moment, Turlough and Perry arrive and watch as the Doctor is taken into the flame pit. Perry goes to help, saying that she knows how to control Kamelion, but Turlough holds her back, saying the Doctor can handle it. They watch as Kamelion takes a blaster from one of Timanoff's men and prepares to kill the Doctor with it. Perry then rushes in and tries to get Kamelion to break free from the Master again, but he says that he is now resistant to her thoughts. He demands that the console component, but she refuses. The Master instructs Kamelion to take her to find the component whilst leaving the Doctor and Amian's followers to be burnt. Timanoff demands to know where are the gifts from the prophecy of the Outsider, and Kamelion tells him and his followers to follow him to the Master's TARDIS. After they leave, Turlough appears and releases the Doctor and the others. He sees what happened to Malcolm and vows vengeance, revealing his belief that Malcolm is his younger brother. He tells the Doctor about the crashed ship belonging to his father. The Doctor says he needs to find where the Master is, and Amian says he will take him. Turlough goes with him, saying that he needs to be with him in order to convince Timanoff's followers to listen to him. He shows off the mark on his arm and says that only a select few are allowed to bear the mark of the Misos triangle. They arrive at the Master's TARDIS just in time to see him go inside with Perry. The Doctor says he needs to stop him by materializing his own TARDIS around the Master's, but he is stopped by Timanoff's followers. Turlough intervenes and says that he is the new Chosen One, revealing his mark and ordering them to obey him. Timanoff tells his followers to stand down, and the Doctor and Amian go into the TARDIS. However, the Doctor finds the ship disabled as the Master had Kamelion take another vital component from it. Meanwhile, Kamelion lands the Master's TARDIS in the heart of the volcano, which is home to Tryon Research Outpost. He accesses the security systems and is able to observe the events at the Doctor's TARDIS through the hidden security cameras. He watches as Turlough continues to tell Timanoff to obey all his commands or be replaced as Chief Elder. The Master then uses a control panel to cause an earth tremor in the area, and Turlough orders everyone inside the TARDIS. Inside, the Doctor brings up an image of Lorgar to convince Timanoff and the others of his connection to him. Turlough quietly notices that the image is actually of someone in a thermal hazmat suit, and the Doctor asks Timanoff if he has ever actually seen Lorgar. He says that he did when he was young, and that Lorgar told him to inhale the volcanic gases, which he says reinvigorated him. The Doctor says that must be the reason the Master wants to go to the volcano. He then notices an alarm on the console and leads everyone outside where they see a large blue flame erupt from the volcano. Timanoff says it is a sign of the blessing from Lorgar and leaves to go gather the rest of the population. After he goes, the Doctor demands Turlough tell him everything that he knows about the planet. Turlough says he doesn't know anything about the outpost other than what he has seen since landing. The Doctor warns him that if he's holding anything back, then they will part ways forever. Back in the volcano, the Master gloats through Kamelion at the fact that he has complete control over the blue flame and the regenerative properties it contains. Suddenly, Perry damages the control panel for the flame and rushes back into the Master's TARDIS, locking Kamelion out. She notices a large box connected to the console and says that it must be the power source. However, when she takes the lid off, she is shocked to see the real Master inside, shrunken down to only a few inches tall. Part 4. Perry recoils in horror and knocks over the box, sending the Master scurrying for cover. This breaks his hold over Kamelion, who is outside, and he reverts to the robotic version of Howard. Meanwhile, back in the temple, the Doctor joins Turlough and Amiand after having investigated the Trine equipment. He reveals that they are the controls for the gas flow that feeds the flames, but that the gas is actually restorative powers derived from the blue flame. He orders Turlough to take Malcolm into the flames, and the Doctor turns on the gas. Malcolm completely recovers, and Turlough tells Timnoff to summon the rest of the population to the temple. The Doctor then asks Amiand to take him to the control center, and he tells Turlough to prepare everyone to get into the TARDIS when he returns. However, Turlough says that it won't be necessary, as he will try to get the transmitter from his father's ship working so he can summon aid from the Tryon homeworld. The Doctor comments on his earlier reluctance to call for help, and Turlough reveals that the mark on his arm is actually a prison brand. He says that Sarn is a prison planet, and that the natives viewed the imprisoned Tryons as gods. The Doctor asks Turlough why he was marked as a prisoner, and he reveals that his family was on the losing side of a civil war. He also reveals that the solicitor who enrolled him in the school back on Earth is actually a Tryon agent and will have reported Turlough's escape from Earth. Then they part ways, and the Doctor goes with Amiand to the volcano. As they make their way there, the ground begins to shake violently, and they are suddenly nearly cut off when the ground around them splits, releasing magma flows. They manage to make their way to the high ground where they encounter Perry, who managed to escape from the Master's TARDIS. She then leads them back to the control center. Inside, the Doctor tells Amiand to keep an eye on the unconscious Kamelion, whilst he goes to the control panel. He says that the Master's interference has caused the whole system to become unstable and could lead to the destruction of the planet. He manages to stabilize the system for the time being, and then leads Perry and Amiand into the Master's TARDIS. Inside, the Doctor confronts his diminutive foe, who reveals that his current size is as a result of his failed attempts to increase the power of his tissue decompressor. Suddenly, Kamelion appears, having reverted to his master form, and he orders them all out of the TARDIS. As they leave, the Doctor takes the missing component from his own TARDIS. He gives it to Amiand and tells him to bring it back to Turlough, whilst he stays behind to stop the Master from entering the blue flame. Perry points out that the flames from the lab have blocked off the entrance, trapping them inside. The Doctor then notices a group of thermal suits nearby, and he dresses Amiand in one of them. After he sets off through the flames, the Doctor goes back to the control console and tells a confused Perry that he is trying to create a psychic field that would interfere with Kamelion, breaking the Master's control over him. Suddenly the Master's TARDIS appears in the blue flame, and Kamelion walks out of it. He orders the Doctor to move away whilst he steps through the flames. The Doctor orders Perry to activate the console, and Kamelion suddenly collapses to the ground, reverting back to Howard again. The Doctor goes to him, but Kamelion says that he cannot break free from the Master completely, and begs the Doctor to kill him. The Doctor reluctantly does so. He then says that he will need to stop the Master from drawing energy from the flame, or the planet will be destroyed. Perry asks if Turlough will be able to pilot the TARDIS once it is fixed, and the Doctor says that the TARDIS will automatically be drawn towards the Master's TARDIS. At that moment, Amiand returns to the temple and gives the component to Turlough, who rushes to the TARDIS. Before he goes, he tells everyone to get to the recently arrived Tryon ships so they can be rescued, but Timnoff refuses to leave and walks into the flame pits. Turlough repairs the TARDIS and leaves the ship, where he is confronted by the captain of the Tryon fleet. They watch as the TARDIS dematerializes. It reappears in the control center, and the Doctor tells Perry to get into it as the Master, in the blue flame, returns to his normal height. He gloats at his victory, but suddenly the flame changes colour, and the Master begs the Doctor to save him. The Doctor ignores his pleas and watches as the Master disappears in the flames. He then rushes into the TARDIS as the control centre begins to explode. He pilots the TARDIS back to the temples, and then they join Turlough as they watch as the last of the natives board the Tryon ship. Turlough informs them that he has been pardoned. He tells the Doctor that he is grateful for their time together, but he feels that he must return home. The Doctor wishes him well and says that he will miss him. Turlough then tells Perry to look after the Doctor and then leaves with the others. The Doctor tells Perry that he should get her home, but she asks to stay and travel with him for a while. After a bit of humming and hawing, the Doctor welcomes her on board. End of the story. So, we have successfully absconded from the Planet of Fire, this time without a certain someone.
Hmm.
So, Trish, can you give us all the trivia surrounding this departure and this recent arrival?
I certainly can try. So, the air date for Planet of Fire is the 23rd of February to the 2nd of March, 1984. The writer of the story is Peter Grunwald. Peter is not someone who's new to us. He
No.
previously directed Full Circle, Legopolis, Kinda, and Earthshock, and he also wrote Time Flight and Mordred Undead. I would say Peter was not very happy, furious, some would say, at the casting of Dallas Adams as Professor Foster. He had written the part for an elderly man who evoked the spirit of archaeologist Howard Carter. The casting of a much younger man who actually was only a couple of years older than Nicola Bryant, like maybe 12 years older than her, caused Grunwald to cut his links with the series. This is the last we're going to see from Peter.
Hmm.
The director of the story is Fiona Cumming. This is also Fiona's last story. She previously directed Castrovalva, Snake Dance, and Enlightenment. I do not think that has anything to do with the casting of
No.
of Dallas. The story had the working title of Planet of Fear. I mean, we've had Planet of Evil before, so
Yeah.
Planet of Fear, not exactly a big push.
No.
And the script originally contained commentary on issues of religious zealotry, something that was significantly toned down when Eric Soward, a script editor, got his hands on it. The story is filmed for once.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not for once. It was filmed not in the UK. It was filmed in Lanzarote, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they filmed in Lanzarote is because Fiona Cumming went there on vacation and took some really nice pictures, and was like, "Hey, John," as in Jonathan Turner,
Yeah.
can we film in Lanzarote?" And he's like,
Uh,
"Oh yeah, no." And she went away on vacation again, came back with more pictures, and was like, "Can we film in Lanzarote?" And so they filmed in Lanzarote. Um,
like as if he needed an excuse to go on holiday. Like,
it was decided though that because of the climate of Lanzarote, which is much different to England,
mm-hmm.
um, that the cast would have to alter their costumes, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for the first time in forever, Turlough changes his fucking clothes.
Yep.
So, instead of his usual school uniform, he's wearing a blue pinstripe shirt and tan shorts with a pair of swim trunks underneath. Those shorts are really short
Mm-hmm.
and they're really tight. So if
As
you
was
like
the style.
Turlough, you might like this outfit.
Yeah.
And
As
yes,
was the
that was the
style at the
style at the
time.
time. It wasn't them trying to
Yeah,
just
yeah,
make. Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say that because I remember in season 3 of Stranger Things when it gets set during the
Mm.
summer and the lads are wearing the shorts. I'm like, Jesus Christ, those are incredibly like tight.
Nicola Bryant wore a pink bikini beneath her clothes, to which she stripped
Mm-hmm.
down for a couple of scenes. So when she dived into the water, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And although Peter Davison started by wearing his cricketer outfit, for the rest of the story he wore a different pair of trousers with question mark braces and a beige floral cardigan style waistcoat. He sheds the waistcoat and hat at one point and spends the latter part of the story just in his shirt, trousers, and braces, which I actually think suits him better, personally.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So I mentioned that at one point Nicola Bryant, who plays Perry, stripped down to her bikini and then went for a swim. The filming of the scene where Turlough rescues her was weirdly interrupted by a German naturist who believed that Nicola Bryant was actually drowning and was very unhappy to learn that she was just acting. And later ruined a take for a scene on the beach when he ran naked through the background. Which is just like, okay. Fair
My
enough.
hat's off to him.
So we have the return of a companion who we will discuss in more detail later in the form
Mm-hmm.
of Kamelion. This is the first time we've seen him since his introductory story, The King's Demons. It's also
Mm-hmm.
the last time we'll see
Mm-hmm.
him. So, whatever. Um, Apparently, it's complications involving the robot model that prevented him from appearing in the other stories, although we mentioned that there was a scene filmed for The Awakening that was edited out. Kamelion's death, for some reason the TARDIS wiki puts that in quote marks, which I don't entirely agree with,
No, I don't
makes
either.
him the fourth companion to die while travelling with the Doctor. TARDIS wiki, you're making me sad, because the other people they list are Katarina, Sarah Kingdom, and Adric.
Justice for Brett.
A fucking chameleon counts as a companion.
Yeah.
TARDIS wiki, get your shit together.
Mm.
Oh, like I copied that over, and I was like, George, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it just so I can bitch about it when we get to
Good.
the trivia. There's an interesting thing about Perry's character that we might get to more when we talk about the character piece, but I do want to call it out. So, in the prose story Shell Shock, it is heavily implied that Howard sexually abused Perry when she was younger.
Yes.
Some have read this as supporting the sort of dream nightmare that Perry had in this story where she shouts out Howard's name after saying, "Don't turn out the light." Um, there's also the line of, "No, Howard, please don't leave me alone," and some other callouts. The commentary around it is a bit interesting because in the DVD, they make it very clear that the production team were aiming for a positive, friendly relationship between the two characters. And there's not much more beyond shell shock that suggests anything improper between them. However, there's a comment here that says it's somewhat unlikely that a person plagued by parental abuse would be begging for the abuser to stay with her, which I think is a very close minded look at
Yeah.
abuse and particularly
Yeah.
familial abuse. Um, so yeah, we may talk about that a bit more later on.
Yeah. Like, just on the subject of that, like, it is it's not even in relation to familial abuse. It's kind of touching on the topic that we talked about last week, which was sexual assault against women.
Mm.
That there is documented cases of that type of behavior becoming a norm for people so that they can cope with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more. I have more
Yeah.
comments to make
Yeah.
on that later on.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
The Master's final line before apparently being killed is directed squarely at the Doctor, and it's, "Won't you show mercy to your own?" And then he gets cut off. According to DVD commentary, Fiona Cumming asked Jonathan Nathan Turner how the line was meant to end, to which he replied, "Brother." It kind of ties back to some of the Master Doctor stuff from the Third Doctor and some of the sort of vibe they were going for with them.
Mm-hmm.
However, Anthony Ainley never actually said the word in any take captured on video. So technically, it's not canon that that's what he was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? It was never captured. So there's future stories involving the Master, spoilers, that obviously contradict that theory.
Mm.
But it's interesting that that's where John Nathan Turner was going with it. Maybe calling back to the original sort of Delgado sort of idea.
Yeah.
This is the only televised Fifth Doctor story not to contain Tegan visually, which might be a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
spoiler for next week. I don't know because I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
The reference to Tegan at the beginning, though, means that she was technically a part in some minor form of
Mm-hmm.
every single one of his televised stories in some way. I don't think Jan Fielding gets royalties for just mentioning her character's name, though. So,
No.
this was the final serial to feature a male companion until the series revival in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Turlough was the last regular male companion to see on screen, with the exception of guest appearances by returning people who, in this context, don't count because they were already counted once.
Mhm.
until Adam Mitchell appeared in 2 stories in 2005. The departure of Turlough and the destruction of Kamelion marked the end of an almost 7-year span of stories featuring at least one non-human companion. Because again, Turlough looks human,
But
but he
he's an
isn't.
alien.
It began with the introduction of K9 in The Invisible Enemy in 1977 and has run all the way up to now. Some other non-human characters included Romana, Adric, and Nissa, and then Turlough
Mhm.
himself. And obviously,
Mhm.
Kamelion was sort of swapped in for K9. Um, in terms of non-human companions to come, it's going to be a while
Yeah.
before we get any. A long while. um, so there is a somewhat infamous uh, James Bond-esque photo shoot with Peter Davison and Nicole Bryant, or Nicola Bryant. I keep saying Nicole. Nicola Bryant,
Mhm.
where Davison had a tuxedo and a prop gun, and Nicola was wearing a bikini. That was taken during production of this story. Okay, we're going to talk a bit about our cast. So we're just going to cover the characters we're going to be discussing as we've done previously.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go into Kamelion again because we've talked about him
Yep.
already. And obviously we have Anthony Ainley returning as the Master.
Mhm.
See previous episodes. So as Timonov, we have Peter Wingard. This is the only Doctor Who acting credit for Peter. His non-Who credits include A Tale of Two Cities, The Innocents, Sherlock Holmes, The Prisoner, Jason King, and Flash Gordon. Peter passed away in 2018. I will say that when I looked Peter up, there are like 6 or 7 possible dates given for his date of birth, varying over like a 4-year period, which is very interesting. Malcolm is played by Edward Highmore. This is the only Doctor Who acting credit for Edward. His non-Who credits include the most random thing. So, the film Elizabeth,
Mhm.
Ali G in the House,
Mhm.
and the shittest Annie film ever, Annie, A Royal Adventure, which is a shit film. Don't watch it. It's horrendous.
Is that the one where the dad from Jumanji plays Daddy Warbucks?
It's the one with Liv Taylor. Not Liv Taylor. Liz Taylor? Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
I was getting Liv Tyler and Liz Taylor
Right.
screwed up in my head. Basically, it doesn't have Grace in it,
Mhm.
which just pissed me off to no end. It's also just a shit film. Um, Edward, though, is the father of actor Freddie Highmore, who you will know from uh, Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and from
Oh yeah.
is it The Good Doctor?
Yeah,
Is
the
that
good
the thing?
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Edward Highmore is his dad.
Oh, interesting.
Lastly, we have Perry Brown, Nicola Bryant. Okay, so our new character. So, um, maybe a controversial statement. So Nicola was born in 1960. That's not the controversial part.
Hmm.
In Surrey. For a while, a publicity-driven fiction was maintained suggesting that she was American. She is not. And I'm sure we will discuss her accent later.
Mhm.
Prior to Doctor Who, Nicola had one acting credit in Saturday's Superstore. As well as her on screen Doctor Who credits, she's also done a lot. I mean, a lot of audio stories. As again, she's one of those people that you scan through her IMDb as Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who the whole way down.
Yeah.
Um, she does have a couple of non Who credits, though, including Animal Arc, Casualty, and Dark Shadows.
So I fell for the whole Nicola Bryant is American thing because
How?
the first time I ever saw her, right, was
Yeah.
in Attack of the Cybermen, the Colin Baker story. Now, when you pair American voices up with English voices back then, it can be a bit jarring. So I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I saw her in the Blackadder Christmas Carol, and I was like, I know that's Nicola Bryant. Her English accent is really good. Ah, fuck, she's English. She and I fell for it.
How? How? We'll talk about it later. But
Yeah.
dude, how?
I was young. I was foolish.
How young?
I saw Attack of the Cybermen when I was like 11, so leave me alone.
Okay, well, no. Okay, that's fine. I thought you meant during your big watch through when you were like
Oh
21.
no, 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 no! At that stage, like I knew, no, no, like Jesus Christ, like she's putting on an accent.
Okay, that's okay. 11-year-old Paddy is forgiven.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Great. So we have done our story summary. Thank you, Paddy. We have done our trivia. Thank you, me.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's on to our character discussion. So, to reiterate for the God only knows how many time, the way
Mm-hmm.
this works is we will discuss the Doctor, the companions, and the villains, maybe prominent characters, if we think they're
Mm-hmm.
awesome. For the companions, we have Turlough and
Mm-hmm.
Kamelion, and our new companion of Perry.
Mm-hmm.
I put Malcolm and Timonov as prominent characters.
No, I had initially suggested Malcolm as a prominent character or as a character to be noteworthy. Having watched the story, though, would you say that he is someone worth discussing? Because I know that we have the trivia
I
thing
don't
going
know,
for it
fucker,
now.
because you had him on your list.
See, I had him on. Okay, I had him on my list at episode 2, which is where I usually like kind of say, "Oh, these seem to be the
Yes,
most
and you
prominent
sent me this
characters."
list a week ago.
Yes, because I thought you were going to watch it by then, but no,
So do you not want to discuss him now?
no, no. I was saying, like, I'm asking you, do you want to discuss him?
I don't have a whole lot to say about him. Like,
Okay, well, in that case, like, really neither do I, because I think the real meat of that aspect of the story is Timonov.
okay, and where do you put Timonov?
I put him as a prominent character.
Okay. Fucking Egypt. Tell me if you're striking people from the list.
No, because it's funny.
Just fucking honest. I'm wasting my time writing notes for a character you don't want to talk about. Hell. And then as our villain, we obviously have the Master.
The Master. Yes.
Yes. So the way this goes.
Is this the last we'll ever see of him?
Tune in next week.
Yes.
So the way this works is the person who reads out the social details is the person who goes first. So Paddington, I will put the question to you. What are your thoughts on the Doctor in Planet of Fire?
This is a story about a lot of different people. The Doctor is not one of them, in my opinion.
Fair.
Yeah. No, because it's not. Because I tracked it back. This is the first story in which we have a trade-off of companions in the story since the War Machines.
Mm. Well.
Yeah. No, we've had incoming companion, outgoing Doctor. That was Tegan and Tom. But in terms of companions actually leaving at the end of the story, or in War Machine's case, halfway through the fucking story, yeah, it's the War Machines. So they had to juggle an outgoing companion, an incoming companion, and also they decided, like, fuck it, we gotta do something with Kamelion, because otherwise he's just stalking like the Phantom of the Opera in the fucking TARDIS. But yeah, so that kind of really leaves the Doctor getting the short end of the stick here when it comes to the story aspects of it. And there's nothing hugely exciting about the Doctor in this story. Like, it is normal Doctor fare. He does a small bit of science. He has a perilous cliffhanger, but that's about it. His confrontations with the Master, when the Master does come on screen, it's nothing anything special. I like his thing where he tries to, like, Black Widow Kamelion It's like puppet on a string cut type thing. I like that sequence. I thought that was kind of cool. But aspects of this story, and it's more so when it comes to Turlough, and I'll say it more when it comes to Turlough, either they don't hit, they hit hollow, or it's not anything outstanding.
Mm.
So I suppose the long and the short of it is that this the Doctor is fine as the Doctor goes, but other than that, I don't think I have anything major to speak about him in this story.
Yeah, I think
Spoiler alert: it's not going to make the rambling.
for me, again, this is largely a case of the Doctor is there, the Doctor
Mm-hmm.
does Doctor stuff, nothing major. I will say I quite liked his interaction with, I've forgotten his name now, the the guy who dresses up in the suit towards the end.
Amiend.
I mean, I quite liked his interactions with him. I thought that was quite
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, this is more of just Peter Davison's Doctor, and unfortunately for me, I kind of have to disagree with you on, and like, I was looking up like different takes on this as well because I was trying to figure out if it was just me, and it might just be me because like I don't usually look up reviews and thoughts online, but like
Mm-hmm.
I seem to be a minority here. I didn't like the way he was with Kamelion at all because I know that what he was saying was to try and disrupt Kamelion's connection to the Master.
Mm-hmm.
But phrases like "no more than the sum of your parts" and even just the "you're a puppet on a string, cut the string" type thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you compare it to how Perry was trying to get through to Kamelion as a
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
like I much preferred the fact that Perry was like, "No, I got through to him before I can do it again," on
Mm-hmm.
an emotional, humanistic level, to the Doctor basically treating Kamelion worse than K9.
Mm-hmm.
Treating him as a robot and not as a friend. And
Mm-hmm.
that runs from the beginning of the episode, where he treats Kamelion a bit like shit, right through to the end. And I saw a sort of a summary being like, oh, the Doctor really shows his compassion for Kamelion. And even you said it in your summary that, like, the Doctor's conflicted, but he gives in to Kamelion's wishes. That fucker wasn't conflicted at all. Kamelion said, please kill me, and he killed him fucking straight away. No fucking pause, no, I'll find another way, we'll find a way to fix your programming. No, nothing. He's just like, yeah, you're a fucking waste of time, fucking die. Like,
So
I
I'll
disagree with
come.
that read,
Okay.
personally.
Okay, I'll comment on it. It's more of a visual thing than it is an audible thing because Peter has his hangdog face on when he does it, so
Yeah,
that's where
but
I
that
put the
face isn't
reluctance.
believable, though, is the problem.
I suppose,
Like, given the character that we've seen, that face isn't believable,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and there is no pause before action. Maybe there's pause after the action. There's, oh, what
Mm.
did I do? But there's no pause before the action. He's just like, yeah, you're a fucking waste of space and you're such a liability. Bang. Or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's, when you compare it to the Fourth Doctor in K9,
Mm-hmm.
and even Sarah Jane in K9 in K9 and Company,
Mm-hmm.
Leela in K9, Romana in
Mm-hmm.
K9, they treated
Mm-hmm.
K9 like a friend
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes like a dog, like a real dog. And his robot element came last, whereas with
Mm-hmm.
Kamelion, it's his robot element coming first. So I'll get into it more when we talk about Kamelion as a character.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say it was the Doctor being the Doctor with one kind of shitty interaction with, as in like, all I think now about the Doctor and Kamelion's dynamic
Mm-hmm.
is that it's kind of shit. It's just the Doctor using his power of mind control to control Kamelion, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because I would have liked to have seen him be like, "No, Kamelion, you're your own person," the way Perry was trying to do.
Mm.
And it's weird when you're a new companion who's known this life all of
Yeah.
2 minutes is better
Mm-hmm.
at compassion than you are.
Yeah. Actually, my mind is flashing back now to Stones of Blood, where like your poor old beat up K9. and the doctor tried to put him back together.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to add on the Doctor before we move on?
No, not really.
Okay, so let's go on to our companions. So, generally speaking, and this is an interesting one. So,
It
generally,
is.
we do the new companion last, or we do
Yeah.
the outgoing companion last, or we do the dead companion last.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, this is the first story where we technically have all three of those things. So, dealer's choice.
So,
Which do
okay.
you want to do first?
I want to talk about the most interesting one last. So, in breaking with tradition, even though this is the first time this is such occurrence has ever fucking happened, this unholy trifecta, um, I want to talk about Turlough first.
Okay.
Okay, so as I said, first time since the War Machines that we've had this companion switcheroo. They handled it so much worse here, and they didn't have the excuse of a fucking contract dispute like they did back in the 60s. To remind our viewers,
Listeners,
uh,
because they can't see you.
yeah, well, hey, viewers, listeners, readers. um, when Dodo was written out, Jackie Lane, the reason that she was written out is because her contract was up. Because they used to do per episode, not per story. So she was let go in the middle of the fucking story. So Dodo was just written out. So she doesn't get to have her grand send off. I still think that's done better than this fucking story. Because nothing that happens here is believable for Turlough. Like this switch to like, oh, I'm going to become a leader of people. Like, because clearly, my father was a leader of people, so like, I'm going to become a leader of people. It's like, I wouldn't trust you to lead yourself out of a t-shirt. That type of fucking scenario. Um, the whole thing of at the very end, with the doctor, like I'm going to miss you, and I like I learned so much. It's like, oh, fuck off! It just rings so hollow. Like you were perfectly content to let him to die in the flame pit. You're like, no, it's okay. The doctor's got this, and it's like he fucking doesn't. The young girl or the young lady that has literally just been thrown into this fucking maelstrom of confusion has more balls than you do. And it
Is that
just
a
like
surprise?
no, um, like the whole thing just fucking nothing has been earned. Like Turlough has remained the exact same selfish fucking prick since he broke free of the Black Guardians' influence and enlightenment. He's the exact same. We've had our discussions surrounding him in like Warriors of the Deep and like the interpretations thereof, and it's like half cowardly, half okay, I'm going to get stuck in, but like he doesn't change. Nothing is earned here. Like I used to give out about it. Christ, Stephen becoming king of that fucking planet is more earned than this emotional quote unquote send off. Um, and like the whole thing with like being reunited with your younger brother, it's just there. Like there's no, like the whole thing is. It's like they try to write this really dramatic backstory, and then they realize, like, oh fuck, we've only got 10 minutes left of screen time to fill.
Mm.
Shit, we'll just cut it, whatever. It's like, so yeah. Turlough has taken the top spot as my least favorite companion. And I'm honestly not sad to leave his tenure, not sad to see his tenure on the show end. And this is the thing is that I've heard that Mark Strickson is a really nice guy, and it's the same with Peter Purves. I've heard that he is also a really nice guy, and it's just one of those things of where it's not like, oh, I love to hate your character. It's just like I actually just don't like your fucking character at all.
Yeah, I basically agree with everything you said. So the thing that I find interesting, because I think the concept behind Turlough's character in this story and the backstory, the explanation of why was he on Earth, and maybe even why is he such a coward, is interesting. He was, a political exile,
Mm.
right? Since he was a child, right? That's really interesting. But I agree with you, it was ham-fisted into poorly constructed story.
Mm.
Because had you removed the master and just had it be about this, I think it maybe could have had some legs on it. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
But when you have the master crammed in as well, there's going to be no space to explore this, right? I agree with you 110%. Turlough has not changed at all. He continues to be secretive and evasive, blaming other people, like even before we find out that Kamelion is sort of being controlled by the master from a distance. When Turlough realizes that like they're going towards this signal, he immediately turns something off in the console. So what the fuck did you just do? What the hell
Mm-hmm.
did you do that for? He's like, oh, it must have been Kamelion. Dude, stop lying.
Mm.
Stop lying all the fucking time. And even when they get to Sarn, he knows exactly what the planet is. He knows exactly what's happening. And he still keeps it all to himself. He's secretive and evasive. Like, full transparency would have been really fucking helpful so the doctor wasn't wandering into a trap where he's just going to walk into fire. Like,
Mm.
tell him the story. Like, I was thinking about it and I was like, Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Luke and Leia find out their siblings.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Luke finds out first.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a sort of, oh my god. He doesn't tell her straight away.
No.
Right? We get a little bit of a slow burn on the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
When they know they're siblings, they have 2 scenes together. Count them, 2. The reveal
Mm-hmm.
and the hug at the end with dancing Ewoks.
Yeah.
And an amazing original song. The
Yeah.
replacement song is also an original song.
Yeah. 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 It depends on my
And
mood.
there
Depends on my mood.
and there is more emotion in those 2 bits of the shock and of the reveal and the enjoyment and excitement of knowing they have someone
Mm-hmm.
than there is in this entire story.
I just thought
Turlough
of
has
something.
found his baby brother. And other than pushing for the doctor to find a way to heal him, which is great, good to see, there's no sort of emotional connection because Turlough doesn't have emotions.
Hmm.
Um. So yeah, what were we going to say?
I just thought of something, right? So, this is we have no we don't know how long the Tryon species live. Are
Hmm.
they long living or are they like standard, Terran life things? Okay, so if this is a prison planet, why are you so sure that it was your father's ship? Because you can't have two things. You can't have this huge fucking mythology built around it being a Tryon research outpost and being a penal colony at the same time. You can't have that lore, but then have it be that only political prisoners of a certain type get this fucking brand, and it just so happens to be magically your father. And like, I don't think your father lived for like a long enough to establish this big fucking mythological lore of, guys in hazmat suits being fire gods.
Yeah, the whole lore of it is just really badly developed. And
Yeah.
I was waiting for the big like exposition scene where it actually explained it, and I didn't really get it because the other people on Sarn that we see are the natives of that planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh no, my father was coming to this planet to be your leader. Why? Why would that have been like? I mean, in terms of like, how does he know it's his father's ship? My guess is that he just looked at the chronometer and he just went, okay, this is 10 years post
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Okay, well, the most recent ship would have been
Mm-hmm.
this or something, which is you can hand wavy that a small bit,
But
but
but he
like,
assumes it's his father's ship before he ever saw it. Like, so is this the only fucking Tryon penal colony?
Maybe. I don't know. It's very
Yeah,
badly explained. The other
yeah,
thing as well is that like I saw mention of his compassion. Like, okay, he wants his brother healed, which again it's not bad, but like again, if you compare it to fucking Return of the Jedi, there's no depth to the emotion there. Um, and you could argue, well, at least he saved Perry when she was drowning. His response is essentially, I'm paraphrasing slightly, fucking humans, man.
yeah.
And then he
That
trudges off to save
yeah,
her. It's not exactly an act of like valor or whatever.
yeah. No,
Um, and yeah, I agree with you. Like his exit moment with the Doctor, I learned so much from you. Dude, you learned shit other
yeah,
than to treat other people like crap, which you were
hmm
doing already.
yeah,
So you learned nothing. You grew. You're just a sphere. There's no like progression path. You're just going around in circles. And you know, like, oh, I'm going to, I'm not in exile anymore. I should go back and take up my position. And I'm like, okay, like,
I just, I
go
just,
home.
I just, I have this
Who
funny
cares?
image now. I have this funny image in my head now, based on something you just said there. He goes, I think, he goes, I've learned so much from you. He just turns around to like the female Sarns and goes, "Bitches, come!" just as he walks
Like,
off.
what he reminds me of in many ways is I wouldn't say like a hamster on a wheel,
Mm-hmm.
but if you imagine like a character going along a flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every now and again there's a little bump. And
Mm-hmm.
they have to overcome the little bump. And they continue walking and then they come across an identical bump. And they go, oh, okay, I'm gonna overcome the little bump. And then they keep going and there's another identical bump. And you zoom out
Mm-hmm.
and you realise they're not walking a flat at all. They're walking a
Mm-hmm.
giant fucking ring.
Mm.
Just repeatedly overcoming the same obstacle over
Yeah.
and over and over again, but not actually getting anywhere. That is Turlough in a nutshell. Stephen, I didn't fucking like. We've made this very clear. But Stephen at least tried in his own way to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
His way was often incredibly misguided,
Yes.
but by his moral code, he was trying to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Turlough is a piece of shit. He began as a
Yeah.
piece of shit. He leaves as a piece of shit. Goodbye, piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Max Christensen, this has
Right.
nothing to do with you. I'm sure you're lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Marge, my friend, I haven't learned a thing.
Okay, so who is next?
Next would be Peripagulium Brown. I know that's the longer version of her name, and if I mispronounce it, I'm very sorry to anyone that has also been named Peripagulium.
I am
Uh,
never going to say it because I will butcher it,
mm-hmm,
which I'm aware is incredibly entitled. Trish just learned to say the name, but she's
mm-hmm.
referred to in the story, and she goes by Perry. So
Yeah. Yep.
I will
No,
go with
like
Perry.
it's. Yep, absolutely. I can't say my own name, right? So I refuse to say my own name. um, Once you get past the accent, okay, I actually really like Perry in this story.
Mm,
Um, so she has two main continual points of character interaction, which is the Master and Kamelion.
mm,
And they both bring out different facets of her character, which I hope, I fucking pray to God, stay. Um, so the first one is this resistance and refusal to be intimidated by the Master. Really thought that was good because like she's she's scared clearly, but she
mm.
refuses to be intimidated. And like she has him over a barrel. Like she's like, like if you come at me, I'm going to throw this down the fucking cliff. And he's like, but and then through Kamelion, it's like, oh well, if you do that, you'll never get back to her. And she's like, I don't care because like you clearly want something. This is bad, so no. Um, so I really enjoyed that, and also that weird borrowers esque fucking chase scene where she tries to beat him with a shoe, but then can't stop sneezing, and
The sneezing
it
was
was
weird.
Yeah, it was weird. It was so fucking weird. Um, I was like, well, this clearly could have been given, these 60 seconds could have been additional valuable dialogue for Turlough's backstory. But anyway, I like that interaction there. But I think where the real bread and butter for her comes in is her interactions with Kamelion,
Mm.
because she has two distinct Kamelion relationships. There's with Kamelion in his base form, and then there's Kamelion in his weird Silver Howard form. And I like the one in the base form because it's fun to see Kamelion in his base form. I think his design is actually pretty cool. Um, and I like how she doesn't treat him as a robot, which was nice. I thought she treats him as
Mm.
an entity. And then when he's in his Silver Howard mode, like she can no, I might be idolizing it a bit too much, and she could very well just be kind of um, playing it up to just try and get free. But she can tell that there's a level of conflict there. And my belief, I can see that she believes that there's a level of conflict there. And based on who she knows Kamelion to actually be, she's not trying to get away. That's a byproduct of trying to get him free. Like she
Mm.
wants him to break free from the Master's control. And she does get upset when he dies. Definitely more than the Doctor ever did. So it's a sad thing, and again, we'll talk about more when we talk about Kamelion, is that like she comes into this world and she sees the death of someone that she has an attachment to in some way, shape, or form. So that's a bummer to see. Shifting things to a bit more positive focus, though, I like her interactions with the Doctor more so because of the fact that she's not afraid to get stuck in. She's
Mm.
like, "What are you doing? What can I do to help? I'll press this button. I'll do whatever." And it's like, in a way, it's almost like what Tegan was in episodes 3.5 to 4 of
Mm.
Logopolis. It's Perry is kind of doing that, but again for the bones of 3 episodes, where she's like showing this independent and the beauty of this story for Perry is that she's alone for quite a bit of it. So
Mm.
we are getting to see that independent nature for her, where she's not an out and out damsel in distress. She is quite self reliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you get past the accent and a bit of the the bratty behavior at times, I quite like her in this story.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think, my initial read on Perry was she's very much a young, financially supported student.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm going to go to Morocco and I'm going to travel and blah, blah, blah. Um, which is good. And I think I'm trying to think back, like, when is the last time we had a companion who, from the off, traveled with the Doctor because they just wanted to travel?
Uh, okay. Tegan, Logopolis, Cliffhanger.
Also spends her
Uh,
whole time trying to get home.
yeah. Nissa.
Planet gone.
Oh, and also abducted. And yeah,
Mm.
Planet Gone. Romana?
Adric. Right. Romana assigned to him.
No, no, sorry, not Romana. I meant to say Leela.
Leela, possibly the closest one we have.
Mm-hmm.
Though she was also kind of a little bit of, she wanted to get away from the position that she landed herself in that she didn't want.
Yeah.
Um, but to have someone who's just like, I want to go on adventures, I want to travel, I have 3 months before I need to go back to college,
Mm-hmm.
is really refreshing. Do
Mm-hmm.
you know? And this
Mm-hmm.
isn't someone who circumstance dictates has to stay with the Doctor. This is, she got caught up in an adventure and is like, hey, this is kind of cool.
Jesus, if we're doing that, it's probably Zoe then.
It's been a
Yeah.
really long time.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how that goes without this sort of background conflict. I mean, technically, you could say that like, Sarah Jane stayed on for the adventure, but I think that was more so for friendship than adventure, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like she stayed on because he was her friend and she wanted to travel with him,
Hmm.
not necessarily because she wanted to see what was out there. If you get my
Hmm.
drift.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that was really interesting. I think as a character, look, there's a couple of things that are annoying. Just the way the character is written. Yeah, she's a bit screamy, a bit, the acting is a bit OTT, and stuff like that. But you cannot say that she isn't brave.
No.
You just cannot. Um, the way she stands up to originally what she thinks is the master, but is actually Kamelion, is outstanding. The way she stands up to Kamelion Howard is very good at the beginning when he reveals himself. The way she is with the master in general, like she does not give in to him. He's like, I am the master and you will obey me. Which, when we've seen him use that line before, there's often a bit of a psychic
Hmm.
push, hypnotic push that goes with it. And she's just like, no, I fucking don't.
Hmm.
And like I
Yeah.
think part of that is meant to be, a little bit of that young college student fucking bitch
Hmm.
please attitude. Also think some of it is meant to be a bit sort of like American. Do you know Americans at this time being seen as being a bit more free, you know, free thinking and stuff like that in a way.
Hmm.
Um, Particularly because like she comes across kind of Californian, maybe
Yeah.
what they're going for.
Yeah.
Um, which is good. But like she at one point she fucking fucks him onto the floor, as in like
Hmm.
shoves him Chameleon Master
Yeah.
shoves him really hard onto the floor and runs off, locks herself in the TARDIS. I was like, fuck you, bitch, you can't get in. When she finds the tiny master, which I find hilarious,
Hmm.
her thing is like, I'm fucking bigger than you. Like,
Yeah.
what can you do to me, little
Because
man?
the first thing she does is like just kick her over the fucking box. Just fuck.
Yeah. And then she goes around and she takes off her shoe intending to whack him. The sneezing thing was
Mm.
weird. I don't get why. I think it's because they wanted
Uh,
to show her taking off her shoe to whack him, but they didn't actually want.
yeah.
It was like to show her missing. Um,
Yeah.
but she continues hunting for him, and I was like, "Fucker, get back here!" Do you know what I mean? Um, even though she's seen the tissue um minimizer thing,
Yeah.
which is great. Um, My favorite thing about her though was her interactions with Kamelion, both Kamelion and Howard Kamelion,
Hmm.
because again, it shows compassion, and it's
Hmm.
why the Doctor's and Turlough's treatment of Kamelion stands out as so terribly bad. And to me, it's because you have Perry, someone who doesn't know anything about this type of life, seeing a creature in pain
Mm.
and a creature struggling and connecting with them on that level. And again, it's very much like Sarah Jane in Robot.
Yeah.
Or, like I said, Leela or Romana with K9.
Hmm. And,
Um,
and we'll see it again in future companions when they encounter these
yeah,
non-human entities.
which I think is great. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her.
Hmm.
There's one thing I'm curious about how it's going to play out next week, which is, because this is the fifth Doctor, he's also an asshole.
Hmm.
So when he's like, "Oh, so you want to travel with me?" She's like, "Is that an invitation?" He's like, "No, it's a question." I'm like,
Mm.
the answer to her question of your question is yes. That is the
Hmm.
answer to the question. Not being a dick and being like, "I didn't fucking invite you yet." Like, oh, fuck off, prick. Um, so I am looking forward to that. I do need to address the accent though, right?
Mm.
So usually me and Paddy don't talk about the episode until we're hitting record. But we
Hmm.
do work in the same office, so I did see you earlier on today.
Yes.
I watched this episode and I was like, please, for the love of God, do a dodo on it. Please do a dodo on it. Because, no offence to 11-year-old Paddy,
Hmm.
her accent is so bad. It is so bad. it has fucking Americans trying Irish accents
Yeah.
feel to it. Do you know? Oh, no offense, Nicola, it's horrendous. And unfortunately, it drew me out of her character on multiple occasions because I don't find her believable. She opens her mouth and the voice that comes out doesn't fit,
Mm.
which draws me out of every scene that she's in, which is unfortunate because there's good scenes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really hoping that we'd have a Dodo situation where they have the American accent for one story and then it turns out she was faking the accent, or oh, I'm actually English. I just spent like a couple of years in America or something, and like she loses the accent next week. So I asked Paddy this morning if that was going to happen, and his answer was no.
Was new.
So this is just something I'm going to have to get over. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it does take me out of scenes with her, and it makes them less enjoyable. Um, which is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
then we have. Come on, come on, come on. When the fuck are we going to get to see Kamelion?
Yes. Your your wishes have finally been answered. You've been asking for weeks. When are we seeing Kamelion? When are we seeing Kamelion? When are we seeing Kamelion? And here. Now, I have a conflicting set of feelings with introducing overarching story plots in Doctor Who, and it's more of a modern thing.
Hmm.
Um, I wish they had done Chameleon, shown off Chameleon a bit more, because I would have loved to have seen this like recurring thing that like every so often in a story where Chameleon is, he starts bugging out, and it's all leading up to this fact that the Master has been trying to reconnect his control over him the whole way out. That being said, though, I like in a story with three companions, one of them who's been like a long-serving one, I am alternating as to who I prefer out of Perry and Chameleon because I like um, different aspects of what the characters do in the story and what like their overall kind of story beats. And I so this is a thing that is kind of like discussed, and it's done an awful lot of mission log from the stuff that I've listened to. And we even talked about it here is like the whole, are they, can you like, should they just be treated as a pile of like fucking scrap metal, or
Hmm.
should they be treated as like a personality? Because there are times where it's like, and it's in any form of media, you get connected to these characters, and it's like when they die, they die. It's like it's not just like fucking gears and wires and motor oil or whatever. It's like it's almost like these things have a soul.
Hmm.
And watching Chameleon try to be good, try to resist the Master's thing, try to help Perry, try to live the life that he was given when he was rescued by the Doctor, Tegan and Turlough. It is kind of heartbreaking. And like seeing him then like where it's like it's no use, I can't break free. Like his immediate thought is like please kill me. And that was kind of distressing. And I am like it was so much wasted opportunity here because and I think it's we talked about it before. It comes down to I suppose necessarily the writing of it, because there could have been ways to incorporate Chameleon into previous stories between King's Demons and now, because all you had to do was like get your guest actor to be the person that Chameleon impersonates, or just like fucking hire someone to play his like regular human form. Um, I it kind of bugged me a small bit, like my first watch through, because I was like, like, oh, Comedian, that would have been fun. Now it's really fucking bugged me because I really liked him in King's Demons, and I really like him here. I think so much wasted fucking opportunity for a character that was really well written. And what I will say is that, sorry, I have to take a look at something that Peter Grimwade, like he is like as a director, he's not. Well, sorry, no, as a writer, he ain't great. He
Mm,
really ain't, because Time Flight and Mordred Undead, no, no, no. But I think he did a really good job writing Kamelion here, so I have to tip my hat to that. Um, yeah, so I'm actually disappointed, and companion based deaths in Doctor Who were a rarity. As we've seen, he's the, what are we calling it? The fifth? Yeah, like
mm.
fuck it. For us, he's the fifth. And I would probably rank him as, all in all, probably number three on the list of, fuck, that sucks. You know?
Mm. So, I, in many ways, I class Chameleon the same way I class Katarina,
Mm-hmm. Understandably so.
which is, can you even fucking say they're a companion?
Mm-hmm.
Chameleon spends all of his first story being a puppet of the enemy
Mm-hmm.
and is quote unquote rescued at the end.
Mm-hmm.
He is then put in a closet and ignored for like what, 6 stories or whatever. And then wheeled out, and we're expected to believe they're like, oh no, that's Chameleon. Who? If I
Mm-hmm.
only started watching at the start of this season, I would have no clue who the fuck you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because Chameleon was introduced last season.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a whole big anniversary thing in the middle, and he wasn't fucking in that either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's sort of a thing of, I class him with Katarina where I don't get why people call him a companion.
Mm-hmm.
I would, you know, again, over characters like Brett, right? I will forever argue that point till the cows come home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even over characters like Sarah Kingdom, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't think Sarah Kingdom is a companion. Like, well, we don't think Sarah Kingdom is a companion, then Chameleon fucking ain't a companion either, because his active time as a companion is like 3 minutes, if even, right? In this story, though, I think Chameleon is very tragic. And I think that's the thing about Chameleon in general, is the premise of Chameleon is that he can be controlled by the strongest mind in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in our last story, we had fucking Davros.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that have been interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, a version of Davros who can fucking walk.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that have been interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it makes him a very tragic character because even when he was quote unquote free, he wasn't. Because it was the doctor's mind that gave him that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we ever really get to know the true Chameleon until his death.
Mm-hmm.
When he says, I don't think I can be good, or whatever way he fucking says it,
Mm-hmm.
is a thing of self realization for your robotic character that is so tragic. If we think about other, you know, quote unquote robotic characters, you know, the likes of Data, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or even K9 in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but like the like of a character like Data who tries so hard to be human and whatever. And again, we have the difference of Data would say like, "Oh, I'll never actually truly be human," and his friends are always lifting him up, always showing you are a person in your own right. And with Turlough and the Doctor, we didn't see that for Kamelion. The only person who gave Kamelion an identity of his own was Perry, who
Mm-hmm.
didn't know any different. And so I think Kamelion here is just really tragic because he was never free, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really sad. It's really sad. Now, I don't know what they could have done with the character where they wrote that huge fucking plot flaw into them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because every story would be like, oh, who's going to control Kamelion this week? Whatever.
Mm.
Unless you found a way to meet an engineer who can fix his wiring that he is no longer controllable. But it means he can no longer change his shape or something like that. I mean, that would a fucking amazing
Yeah.
story that would have been, right? But the other thing that I find interesting about Kamelion in this story is the implication, which would have made your thing of why not have him in a couple of scenes in every episode and we see him glitching and twitching or whatever. Because this story implies that across the void of time and space,
Mm-hmm.
the Master is still stronger than the Doctor in the next fucking room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kamelion was being controlled right under the Doctor's nose and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't fucking notice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the behavior was hidden enough, but he didn't notice the psychic intrusion. And I'm just there kind of going, okay, fair enough. So yeah, I think Chameleon is a wasted character. I think though with that huge plot hole, well not plot hole, but that huge plot character flaw, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
they realistically could have done with him. But I think in this story he is quite tragic. I think in terms of characters that die, I think he is probably the most tragic because unlike the rest of them, he never actually got to be his own person.
Yeah. No, I
In
agree.
terms
I
of the
agree.
gut punch of death, I would say he's not actually that high for me. He's probably down the bottom
Mm-hmm.
just on the gut punch thing.
Yeah.
But on the sort of contemplative side of it, he's probably up at the top.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a sad one.
Yeah. Okay, let's move swiftly on to our
Mm-hmm.
prominent character,
Tur,
singular,
yes, tur, sir. Mm-hmm.
fucker, of Timonov, or Timonov,
Mm-hmm.
however you pronounce his name.
Timonov,
Tim.
yeah. There are some who call me Timonov. Um,
You can call me Tim.
yes, I was fascinated by him because, and I really want to know Eric Soward's rationale for toning down the religious zealotry aspect of things. Because it was actually one of my favorite parts of the story was Timonov's whole thing, and it's like because I am fascinated, as you know, like in that thing about
Mm,
like religion and like both in fictional media, but also in real life, and all the stuff that has been done under the guise of religion or in the name of religion. And here we have like it's a perfect representation of the fact that something is wrong, be it a natural disaster or a financial disaster or a socio or social disaster or whatever the case is. And the rationale is always that it's a deity is upset and therefore we must do something to appease the deity. Here it's fucking burning people alive, which is no, no. um, yeah, don't like that fucking shit. But you have this thing of where Timonov's face is kind of he goes almost like if there's a religious version of like the 5 stages of grief or whatever, because you have him being someone that is devout, and what I liked about Timonov is that say compared to if you go all the way back to the Aztecs, Tlatoxel,
mm,
we always had the discussion as like is he actually a fucking believer or is he just someone that likes the power?
mm.
Fast forward to here, Timonov is a devout follower,
Yeah.
absolutely devout follower. And when he sees the master as the representation, oh my god, it's the outsider, whatever, he's then like, well, I've got the real person here, so his chosen representative on Earth, which is Malkan, should really be overridden.
Mm,
So like when he kind of refuses to follow Malkan's instructions and allows, well, allows him, I suppose, allowed him to be shot. it's like, Jesus Christ, the power of, this fate is too much. And then there's the betrayal when he realizes that, oh fuck it, he feels betrayed by the fact of like the outsider or whatever. And then at the end, it's like when he walks into the flame pit, you're like, are you doing it because of fate? Are you doing it because of shame? Are you doing it like for repentance? I don't know. It's not properly explained. But when I was watching it, I was like, oh, all right. I'm not like you. It's not tragic or it's not sad or whatever. But it's like, it gives you a moment to pause, I think. So I like Timonov as a character from a character study point of view.
Mm. Yeah, like, again, from a character study point of view, I would agree with you. I think he's very interesting.
Mm.
I also had thoughts of, comparison to Clotoxel
Yeah.
and the difference between devotion to faith and using faith as a weapon,
Yeah.
which is different.
Mm-hmm.
Clotoxel used faith as a weapon,
Yes.
whereas Timonov, to your point, truly believes it. And he kind of reminds me, it's very hard to say that he reminds you of something that I have trouble to describe it, but when I look at Timonov from beginning to end, I see someone who draws comfort from their faith, which is not something I personally experience. And sometimes I envy those who do. And you and I have talked
Mm-hmm.
about this before in
Mm-hmm.
personal
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes great comfort in his faith. It is what he has based his life around. It is
Mm-hmm.
tradition. It is community. It is safety. It is protection.
Mm-hmm.
It is a guiding light, for lack of a better word, in who he is and how he lives and how his people live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something he made up. These people were raised to believe this myth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you take that at the beginning, the reveal of the master's betrayal, and then you get to the end where he walks into the fire or whatever, it sort of reminds me of... Okay, let me tell you an alternative story.
Mm-hmm.
That if you wanted to take this out of the science fiction
Mm-hmm.
and put it as a sort of like a modern story,
Mm-hmm.
you have a devout, let's say Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
very firm in their faith, believe in the word of God, believe in the Bible, believe in the church,
Mm-hmm.
who finds out that, I don't know, let's call it anything, finds out that their local priest is a kid diddler,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or finds out that their close relative is gay,
Mm-hmm.
or what have you. We'll go with the gay route, right? Finds out their close
Yeah.
relative is gay.
Yeah.
And struggles to accept that because, but no, my faith never says this.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
but because
Yeah.
all they have ever known is this. And when the reality of the situation is revealed, we'll say, again, I don't know, the Pope came out and said, gays is good, gays can get married in churches, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person cannot resolve the way they have behaved with the now truth and the
Mm-hmm.
now fact. And so when he says, I must pay for my sins, it's not I must pay for my sins because I believed in a false
Mm-hmm.
prophet or whatever. It's I must pay for my sins because I drove this narrative
Mm-hmm.
and I killed and sacrificed our people to this narrative
Mm-hmm.
because I had faith in it then, and because I'm still a quote unquote sinner, I still have faith in it now.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of reminds me of that, like in a weird way. It's like a Hallmark movie of like, the old man whose son is gay
Yeah.
or something, and then they find out at the end, and it's like, oh, but it's okay, like,
Yeah.
don't save my life because the gay kid needs my lungs or some fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? It's very much like that.
Yeah. And so he immolates himself in repentance.
But it's interesting because it's a case of like when he says like we must pay for our sins, he doesn't mean the community must pay.
Mm-hmm.
He means that he must pay
Yeah.
because his faith led them to a point of killing other people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still his faith and he can't not have it because without it, what
Mm-hmm.
is he?
Yeah.
And that in itself is a sin.
Yeah.
Do you know? And so I found that really, really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I find it so fascinating is because he's not an idiot.
No.
Do you know? It's not like it has a little bit of face of evil to it in a way.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that because that came into
But
my head as well.
but like when the master is saying, kill them or whatever, he's like,
Mm.
cool as the fire, and then when he realizes that Malkin's going to be shot, he's like, no, 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 that's not the way we do this.
Mm.
Stop what you're doing. It's not a case of he was like, no, like I will do whatever. It's like, no, we follow our tradition. This is our tradition. It's sad and it hurts sometimes, but this is the tradition. What the fuck do you mean you're going to shoot someone?
Mm.
What? Whatever. So I think he's a very interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think his end was a suitable one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's tragic in his own way.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was
I
my
agree.
rambling thought on
No, I know I
Timonov.
liked it because I liked it because definitely I think one of the strongest aspects of the story. So
Yeah.
it was actually I'm glad that we kind of had a similar thought process on that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's round it off with the man himself.
Mm.
The man, the myth, the legend, the
Tiny
master.
Tim, or in this case, sorry, Tiny Tony.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Doctor. There's nothing new here. There really isn't. I do like the implication that, as you said, that he is stronger than the Doctor mentally. Maybe not in the area of common sense, but he's definitely the
His mind is the definition of infinite cosmic power. It'll be living
yeah,
things.
yeah, pretty much, absolutely. Also, I am going to fucking put this in as another one as the Master wears a fucking disguise.
Yes.
Yeah, just because it looks like him, does it? Um, no, sorry, got distracted by a thought. Yeah, no, there's nothing special about the Master here, but like as in the sense of there's nothing new, nothing that we haven't seen. There's the mustache twirling villainy of the whole thing, and we know that he's evil nature, and especially in how he treats Kamelion, and or how he, I think it's like you've got to stop wearing people like meat puppets, or in this case, like metal puppets. It's just like, there's so much fucking wrong with that character. It's frustrating. Sorry, I think his death though, or his demise on screen, I say in quotations, is kind of interesting because in a way I think it reflects poorly on the Doctor because in the sense of like, oh, so like now you've just decided to kind of go, yeah, fuck it, let him go off in the flames. I'm like, after everything he's fucking pulled, why is now the time that you're like, let him fucking burn away? It's like, and it's not even like because like, there's no justice for Aunt Vanessa, there's no justice for all of Traken and Tremas or anything like that. And I was watching and I was like, uh, it didn't have any impact other than the fact that I was like, kind of taking it back to the Doctor, where it's like going all the shit he fucking has pulled previously, and this is it seems like such like an unfair end to give him for all the shit that he's pulled. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like I don't really have any outstanding thoughts about the Master, other than like I dislike him because of everything that he put Kamelion through.
Mm. So all that's been going through my head the entire time you've been talking,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if this is what you were kind of half giggling at yourself a second ago, is they look like an angel, they walk like an angel, they talk like a fucking weird angel, but this is Doctor Who, so it's the Master in disguise.
No, the thing I was giggling at is that there's
And I
there's
don't sing, so
professional.
you get to have
Yeah,
me just saying
yeah.
those words.
No, no. The thing that I was giggling at is that there's a professional wrestler called Sting who wears face paint. One of his tactics is to ambush his opponent by pretending to be a fan wearing a Sting mask. So the guys are up there, they're reading all of a sudden this fan wearing one of his masks pops out and attacks the other wrestler, and he just pulls off the mask to reveal the face paint, which looks like the mask. So
Okay.
that's all I was thinking of,
Yeah, but no, like I said, walks like an angel, talks like an angel. But this is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's just the Master in disguise.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of the Master in this story. I generally don't. I think it would have been a much more interesting story without him. And to be honest, even if you didn't have Kamelion in it, like, just have it be the signal from the thing draws them to the planet. Like, there's other ways around it.
Yeah.
I think his actions in this story are shit. They're nowhere. I wouldn't say they're as bad as what he did to Traken or Legopolis or any of those.
No.
I think his end, I would agree with you. It's like, oh, he's been going around using the body, the physical appearance of your so-called friend's dad for the last 3 years, and you've been totally fine with that. So why let him burn now? Why is that? What I will say is I did love his interactions with Perry. I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was hilarious. Because he's like, you will never defeat me. I am teeny tiny man. And it's like, oh shit, you fucking fucked me on my box. I have to go hide. And then it's like, you will never da 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 da. It's like, no, don't hurt me, don't, I'm small. It's very funny the way he pivots between two. Also, why did he go all Hank Pym?
Oh,
was that explained?
Yeah, no, he said it was a mishap because he was trying to increase the power of his tissue decompressor, so it backfired and it shrunk him. Why he's still alive, I don't know. Seeing as how everyone else that has been shrunk by that thing is fucking dead.
Yeah. Also, why did you use your tissue compressor on a suit? A suit doesn't have tissue. Because not alive.
Oh, don't bring logic into this. It's like I recently rewatched fucking Prisoner of Azkaban, and it's like, okay, when Peter
the best Harry Potter film, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. When Scabbers changes from the rat into Peter Pettigrew, he's wearing clothes. But then when he escapes, the clothes fall off him as he becomes the rat again. And it's like, why? That makes no fucking sense. Yeah.
I have a theory about that.
Oh, do tell.
So, Peter is an animagus, but he's a shit animagus.
Okay.
So McGonagall keeps her clothes on.
Yes.
When she changes forward and back. Sirius keeps his clothes on when he changes forward and back. Peter, when he changed into Scabbers in the first place, and when he decided to adopt that as his persona, that was a concentrated effort. And I don't think it was when he blew up the street of Muggles. I think he changed into Scabbers, disappeared, and then later on changed back, went, oh fuck, tried to figure out what he's going to do, and then he changed again. Personal theory. Point being, it required effort and focus.
Contradictory point to your serious thing. In fucking Order of the Phoenix, when he accompanies them to the station, he has to drag a robe out of somewhere because he's naked when he transforms back in. So he's just as shit an animagus as Peter is.
Okay.
Yeah.
My point is, I think it requires focus to change with your clothes on.
Yeah.
And keep them on. And when he escaped, he wasn't thinking. But separate conversation.
Separate conversation. Absolutely. Equal
Um,
in length to our thoughts on the Master in this story, by the way.
why was he in this story? God only fucking knows.
Uh, yeah, to write Kamelion out, pretty much.
Yeah,
That's it. Should have saved it for a different story.
yeah.
So, we have arrived at the overall section where, after all our discussion points, myself and Trish will each give the story a score out of 5. So, the person that has done the socials usually leads off the character discussion and then in turn leads off the overall, which would be me. So, I will continue talking. Um, so, I think most people can guess by now that this is not going to be a 5. Um, I am, however, going to give it a 2. And the 2 has got nothing to do with the Doctor or the Master or the outgoing companion of Turlough. My scores for this story rely solely on the sections involving Kamelion, Perry, and Timonov. Kamelion, because of the tragedy of his character, as you pointed out, and I thought it was done really well. And hats off to the guy playing the Howard version, and also to the guy that does the voice for Kamelion when he's in his robot form.
Mm.
I thought great job, throughout by the two of them. Perry has she's promising. She's absolutely promising. Yes, she's a bit screamy, but also she's tough. She's resilient, and she is also kind of what's another word? I think it begins with R, but I don't think it is. But she's actually just very kind of resourceful. That's the word. Aha. I think she is resourceful. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. Please don't fuck it up. Um, and future knowledge, I know that she's mainly partnered with the Sixth Doctor, and he's a different beast. As I kind of said, asshole by design more so than asshole just by being an asshole. Um, so I liked her. I really liked her in this story. And then, as I said, in terms of a character study and also the greater things surrounding the lore involving Timonov, and again, it leads to those really cool discussion points. That's what I enjoy most about this story. The Doctor's contribution to it, as we said, is not outstanding. Like it ain't great. It's not horrible, but it ain't great. The Master's kind of boring in this story, and then Turlough's whole lore dump backstory is very badly handled. So yeah, as I said, I'm giving this story a 2, and again, it's down to the contributions of 3 distinct characters.
Okie dokie. That's 2.0 for Paddington. Cool, which brings your average for the season so far to 2.25. So for me, I agree with you. This story wasn't anything to write home about, really. Um, Underdeveloped plot, random use of characters, unjustified exit in sense of how the exit was done. I mean, I'm glad he's fucking
Mm-hmm.
gone, but in terms of how the
Mm-hmm.
exit was done. Um,
Just no, Turlough, please stay.
oh no, oh dear. Um, you don't want to walk into the fire, do you? No, no, okay. Um, I gave it a 2.5, so slightly higher.
Oh, cool.
Um, for the mostly the same reasons as you. I think that um, Timonov was a very interesting character to explore. I think Perry, though her accent grinds my gears,
Mm-hmm.
is someone to look for. She was interesting, she helped drive plot, she had good interactions with the Master, she doesn't idolize the Doctor, which I quite like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no idolization there. And she's something new,
Mm-hmm.
do you know? Tegan was a young woman, but she was also a career person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she was finished college, she had a job, blah, blah, blah. So it's nice to have a younger woman, a younger Earth person on the TARDIS
Yes.
again. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be really fun to watch, I think. And yeah, I think Kamelion. I think Kamelion is massively underused in the story, generally speaking. But if we're going to write Kamelion out, then focusing on the tragic nature, the sort of Pinocchio-esque type of thing of I just can't be good.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really interesting. The Doctor, fine science moments, was a dickhead to his friends as always. Weirdly okay with the Master burning alive, which, yay, but also why? Um, the Master was there. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Master was a waste of runtime. Though I did find his interaction with Perry fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So I quite like those scenes. I think that's where the point five sort of came from. And the point five also came from, while it was handled really badly, the idea of Turlough being a political exile
Mm.
is interesting. The idea of Turlough being sent somewhere other than where his family was being sent, Turlough, the elder son, being
Mm-hmm.
sent somewhere else, is interesting. The idea that the people of Tryon have moles, essentially, on different humanoid like planets is interesting. The basic repeat of Face of Evil was unnecessary. Um, but I found the idea of Turlough's backstory interesting, but it came from fuck off nowhere. It's not like we've seen the symbol on his arm in stories gone by. They literally made up a backstory and then just ran with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
would be much more interested in his backstory from, I've forgotten the name of the episode where the ground eats you. What the fuck was it? What was the other name of the episode?
Frontios.
Yes. That sort of planetary history I would be more interested in than this one, because this one also doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's an interesting concept
Mm-hmm.
that I would have liked them to do a little bit more with. So yeah, so for me it's a 2.5. I think it's a nice introduction to Perry. So if you want to looking at it from that point of view, I would say don't skip it
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because it's necessary for Perry. If
Mm-hmm.
you were only watching season 21,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you have to watch the King's Demons from season 20 to figure out who the fuck Kamelion is and why you should care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think
Also, parts of it remind me of the fucking original cut of Highlander 2, like where these like fucking like failed rebels are like thrown onto Earth where they become the fucking immortals. That was all retconned anyway. But yeah, just aspect of the story reminded me of that. Um, but yeah, no, so I'm going back through Perry's run in my head in terms of the stories that I know that she's going to be involved in. Because as we're going to discuss when we get there, Colin's run is it has a troubled uh, production history,
mm,
but I'll probably say now that it's looking like that this is like for Perry at least an automatic go to on my rambling. Like I
mm,
like this, like I really enjoyed her in this story.
oh,
So
very good. I don't
yeah,
know enough
like
of the other stuff to say,
yeah,
so
no,
it'll be interesting for me.
like as I said, like I only have fragments
Mm,
of my memory of it, so like I can't like I'll put it this way, I know that I have at least one coming on. So
mm.
there we go.
But next time we're going to be saying our goodbye to Turlo, which,
Yeah,
to be honest, I'm fucking dreading because
it right. It's either going to be very very short, or it's actually going to be surprisingly long.
mm.
Yes,
And then after that, to be honest, that's going to run us up into Christmas. So
yes. So
I'm
we're
really
probably going to
sorry you're
yeah,
not going to get the Caves of Androzani, which at least one person has been waiting for fucking ages for us
yes,
to get to
hmm
until next year.
yes.
Sorry, not sorry.
So No problem at all. So what we might actually do is we have developed a tradition over the last couple of years where we kind of have like an end of year Q&A. So
Mm.
what we might do is we might answer some of your questions in our Turlough rambling as well and have that be our end of year podcast episode.
Yeah, we could do.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you have questions, please send them in. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Okay.
guys.
Bye
Bye.
bye.